Hey, this is John Carlos, and I'm here with a review of the Sideshow Collectibles exclusive version of the Hot Toys Star-Lord figure. Here's a look at the packaging. Overall, I dig the design and the color scheme, but one of the things I really like is that little grid pattern at the front bottom section of the packaging. It gives it kind of a sci-fi 80s cheesy vibe, and I think that's pretty appropriate. Now, here's a look at the inner packaging. First, we'll take a look at his accessories. Here's his satchel, which slings over his shoulder, and this strap goes under his armpit and connects there. I'll show you that later. But I just want to give you guys a closer look at the faux leather texture here. I think it looks really, really good. I love the way these panels sort of flap over each other. All the little buckles, the buttons. This is a nice looking man purse. Next up, we've got his quad blasters, and there are two of them. It's worth pointing out that they are not the same. They are meant for left and right. They've got this little panel that goes over the palm of the character's hands. But I do like the use of faded purple paint and the gold paint. It's a really good looking blaster. I think these turned out awesome. Speaking of blasters, he comes with a pair of alternate hands for holding his guns, and I think the gloves themselves look really, really great. I like the texture used on them. He also comes with this other hand. It's a grip hand, meant for holding this plasma orb, which it's really simple looking, but I do like the detail within it, especially like on top, the little metal section there. Speaking of orbs, this is the Infinity Stone Orb, and this is a Sideshow Collectibles exclusive, and I am genuinely surprised that this is an exclusive and not part of the main figure. Also included as an exclusive are his handcuffs, and I do like the use of little blue paint on these little brackets going around there. Really, really good sculpt. Speaking of good sculpt, here is his Walkman and headphones. It's one solid piece. You can't open it up, but I do like the fact that you can see the tape through there. I still got the headphones bundled up, but the actual headphones look really, really good. I think this is a really, really cool, tiny little accessory. He also comes with, wrist pegs and this little collection of little buttons for his jacket. Lastly, he comes with an alternate head, and I think this head turned out awesome. It's the helmet that he obviously wears throughout the film, but I think the detail within the sculpt is really, really well done. I particularly dig all the little nooks and crannies on the sides of his helmet there, and not only just like the sculpting of the venting there, and the texturing right there in the circle, but I also like the paint. If you look in between his eyes, there's a little dirty kind of metal splatter paint in there, and I dig that. All the little nicks within the surface of the gray area. I really dig all those little nicks. The eyes look good too, and I really dig the sculpt on the hair and the fact they include a little piece of his forehead exposed. Now, to get his eyes to light up, we just have to pull this little section off, like so. I'll pull that tab, and you can see in there a little on-off switch, and that gets his eyes to light up. It's a very cool effect. Now here's a look at his unmasked head, and I think they did a great usual Hot Toys job with this, as far as like the sculpting of his hair goes, the overall shape of his hair, and the use of multiple colors of brown to kind of highlight that. I think the paint on his hair looks great. Also, that little, earpiece looks really cool. It's attached to his head, so don't try to take it out. I don't always talk about this, but man, the sculpt on his ear is really good. This sounds dumb to say, but it's a good looking ear. Anyway, the rest of his face looks pretty awesome. I think the overall paint job is really well done, as far as the usual light freckling they do all over the figure. Kind of gives it a more skin-like texture. His eyeballs look nice and glassy, gives him a realistic look, but I really dig that smirk right there at the corner of his mouth, kind of turning up. His lips look good, his smirk looks good. They did a good job with the likeness as far as his nose and his eyes. I think the little wrinkle in his brow, the smirk really gives it a good personality. But I like the way they did his 5 o'clock shadow. There's a use of really subtle sculpting within the texture of his skin there, mixed with light painting, which creates a good stubbly effect. I think Hot Toys did a great job with that, and the soul patch, and the mustache. I think this head turned out great. Now it's time for me to rant and rave about how great his outfit is, because his leather coat has all sorts of like secondary textures on top of them that just look so good that Hot Toys did a great job of capturing. Not only these little textured patterns that go along the front and the back of the coat here, but just the insane amount of details. You're going to hear me say the word details a lot, but not only just the little buttons, but like these little buckles here. Buckles just look great. It's full of little stuff like that. First of all, there's this little plasticky, rubbery pattern that goes down the side. They did a great job with that, where it attaches to the coat there. But even within that, this little pattern right there, it's little and it's detailed. There's another one like that on the back here with a little bit of extra coloring to it. Speaking of coloring, there's these like burn marks all over it. These little dirty burn marks, you know, where the coat's a little brown or a little messed up. I think those turned out great, as well as like when they actually got like scorched and ripped and burned. I like the rips, the details within it, the little cuts, and the use of coloring to dirty it up. Because this coat has clearly seen some action. And man, Hot Toys did a great job really messing this coat up and making it look messed up. If I go out for a little wider shot here, you can just appreciate the not only the little details on the back here, but this like the layers that had to be kind of connected within this coat. All the different like flaps and layers on top of layers and little nooks and crannies within it. Coat just turned out great. Also, the sleeves look good. Again, I dig that pattern on the surface. And here we can get a look at the Ravager side of his sleeve. They did a good job there with this little section as well, and the kind of coloring and distress of it all. And now underneath his jacket, his shirt looks good, and it's got a little texture to it, and I dig that texture. Here's a little look at his collar, but it's the texture around the ribs that look good. And the detail on his belt is just awesome. Not only the buckle, but look at these little tiny loops right there. And the way it connects here to the side, that's Velcro. This is removable, I'll show you that in a moment. But man, the surface of the pants, that stitching along those panels, the buttons, that little doohickey, the pants, and all these little flaps right here within the pants. Really well done. Even the back of his pants have nice little detail with these little zipper line things here and these little tabs on the back. But where this figure really knocks me out is the boots. I tend to rave about Hot Toys shoes and boots a lot, but that's because they tend to do really good work with them. I mean, first of all, the rockets on them just look awesome. It's really good detail as far as those little tiny thrusters right there. But I mean, just look at like the top surface of his boots and the little buckles, not buckles, but the buttons on them, and just how like dirty they are and the wrinkle within them. The little close to the knee little surface spot there. But man, look at the back. Look at all those little like snaps and buckles that like kind of connect and that little venti thing on top. Some really detailed work back there, and I dig the sculpted ripple within there. Now, as far as the articulation on these goes, there is a little tiny bit of a give, but I don't even know if that's supposed to happen because it comes right back. I don't really think there's an ankle joint in there. But I've played with all the articulation. I'm pretty happy with it. The knee joint's really strong. I like the way the legs move, although you can't get his legs to spread that far apart. But I don't expect anyone to be putting, you know, Star-Lord doing the splits. Mid-torso cut and all that, you get really good articulation. Again, nothing to complain about. Shoulders are good within the coat. Elbows are really good. And the head has a really strong, typical, well-done kind of swivel and tilt to it. Here's a look at the figure stand, which is not like the usual Hot Toys oval-shaped stands with the title printed on the top. The title's printed right above the character name on the front little plaque, and it's got this sort of floor grate pattern printed on the top. Just be careful, it's just like a kind of a cheap little sheeting put on it. When you're trying to plug the arm into it, it immediately started to kind of crack, and I got really nervous that this little flimsy material is going to kind of rip all the way through, but luckily the plug covers where the artwork got cracked. But just, you know, be careful and don't push too hard. Putting on the handcuffs is really easy. You just pop off the fist hands, slide the cuffs over his wrists, and then pop the hands back on. Pretty easy. So his Walkman just fits onto the belt right there. And you just plug the headphones onto the top of his head like so. There is a little bit of extra room on them though. Like when you put them right on his ears, they have a little extra space on top of his head. And then if you lean them back, they kind of slide off his ears a little bit. But you get the general idea. His quad blaster snaps into this holster right here, like so. Alright, there's a tiny little snap on the back of his belt. And then the side sections are Velcro. So just carefully pull those off. That's how you take his belt off, so you can zip up his jacket. Now, one of the things that this is supposed to have is a magnetic way of staying closed. Now, I can feel on this side there's 3 little magnetic dots within the coat, here, here, and there. But on this side, there's only 1. I'm feeling around like crazy, and my coat's missing magnets, so the top section can kind of stay closed. Well, if you get them close enough, because they're really far apart. But there, see how it's staying together like that? That should be happening along the coat here, and it's not. Also, do be careful, because these buttons come off really easily. I'm glad they included a bunch of extras, because you may need them. I'm happy to report that the hands pop on and off the wrist pegs really easily. Also, both heads come on and off the neck hole really easily as well, so swapping the heads out was no problem at all. And also, if you can get the top magnet right there at the collar to get into place, the rest of the coat kind of hangs in almost the right place and looks pretty good. Putting his merce on is really easy. You just pop off his head so you can put the strap under his armpit and over his shoulder. And then right here in the back, this little snappy thing here, you just feed that through that little strap and connect the snap. There you go. Here's one last look at the figure with the satchel slung over his back. Gotta say it looks good. It certainly fits good and wasn't a problem putting on. Now, I've raved about the quality of this figure as far as like the detail of his costume, like how well tailored it is and the stitching, and I really do dig the likeness, but I gotta say the articulation's pretty solid for a figure like this. And he comes with a lot of really cool accessories. I mean, the playability with this figure is cool, posability is pretty decent, he looks great on the shelf. I gotta say, I love this figure. I mean, if he had a black light, this figure would look like a Jackson Pollock painting. Thanks for watching!